Hey everybody, welcome back to the Unstoppable podcast. I'm your host, Diana Chen, and I'm here today with our guest, Maria Paula. She is the co-founder of JPG, which is an on-chain gallery that is created and curated by users. It stands for Juried Protocol Galleries, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Welcome, Maria. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So before we dive into JPG, which, by the way, is it pronounced JPG or JPEG?
It's JPEG.
Okay, my bad. So before we dive into JPEG, I probably should have clarified that before we started recording. I am curious to know a little bit more about your background. So I know that you are like one of the OGs in the NFT space. You got in before most, like 99.9% of people even knew what an NFT is, or maybe before NFTs were even in existence, when they were still called crypto art or whatever they were called before NFT became a term. Tell me about your crypto journey. Like, how did you get into crypto in the first place? How did you get into NFTs? And like, how did you start learning about all of this?
So I think I got into crypto around 2016, but I officially started working in crypto in 2017 as employee number 3 at Web3 Foundation Polkadot. And after some months there, I actually discovered the Ethereum community and completely fell in love with it. At the time that we were building Polkadot, the community was very small, so I didn't know that there was such power behind a crypto community. And then I discovered Ethereum, and I was completely mind blown there. So after that, I was like, I really need a job on Ethereum. I had a job, but I needed one on Ethereum. And I applied to one of my favorite projects at the time, that was Golem. I'm really interested on decentralized infrastructure, and got the job. And, at Golem, I was immediately thrown into community work. And one of the very first assignments was going to Tokyo for the first grant giving ceremony, back then when we could have live events, for the first grant giving ceremony of Ethereum Community Fund, another organization that's no longer there, but it was big at the time. In a really super serendipitous sort of moment in the early morning at the Hyatt in Tokyo, the same one that they filmed Lost in Translation. So it was like a really weird sort of encounter. I met Matt Condon that was in a hallway by himself, and I started talking to him, and he told me what he was working on. That was, very early work on NFTs. He was getting a grant. He was one of the first grantees. And as soon as he explained me what an NFT was, I was really taken, because I have a really big interest in art. I've always had it. I actually moved all the way from Argentina to Berlin to participate more actively in the culture scene. So I was really enthralled by this, and by the fact that, there's a lot of opaque instances in the provenance of artworks and the certification. So that's the first thing that interested me. Of course, I thought, the collectible aspect was also super fun. And Matt, since he's, the grandfather of NFTs, had already explained me that NFTs could interoperate and do all of those things, very future vision for 2018. And I was like, maybe, this is worth exploring. I continued working with ECF, and one day we were, at the Slack, and I was like, you know what, guys, I actually want to do the NFT summit. And everyone was like, this is a wild idea, but let's do it. And in October 2018 in San Francisco, we did the first NFT summit. We had Matt. We had the other Matt Stephenson from Paperclip DAO, explaining how NFTs intertwine with open source research. We had Taratan from IDO. We had, Elena Nadolinsky, that's now doing an amazing project. So many OGs. And also we had Jonathan Mann, Song a Day Man, singing the first NFT song, which was really fun. Yeah, you can maybe put it in show notes or something, because I'm not going to sing it to you because my singing voice is horrible. And then actually from there, one of my really good friends is an art curator, and she also heard from NFTs from me, and she didn't think I was insane. She actually thought it was worth exploring. She brought in a really good idea, starting writing some kind of paper about sort of the intersection between blockchain and art and the practical use cases. And we started, sort of the research journey while doing already curating exhibitions within our own festival, IRL festivals in Berlin that included NFTs. In 2019, I published with Stina and Fanny Lacoube, who's also still on NFTs, the very first academic-ish like paper. And it has become sort of a reference point. We're really proud of that. It was very early. We started conversations in January 2019 and published in April. And then this year, I just finished publishing the 2021 paper with my co-founders at the art department of the Department of Decentralization. And I felt like I needed to do something with all this knowledge and all this research and turn it into a business. I started tinkering with a lot of ideas about, curation DAOs and critique DAOs and, any other thing and, things involving a business model. But I couldn't quite put my finger on anything. And at that time, I was also texting Trent, my co-founder at JPEG. And I was sending him just like cool, like artworks all the time, and he was like, you know what, I'm thinking about putting together this gallery, and I'm like, I'm down for it. I'm sort of at the same stage. And then, he introduced me to Sam, the other co-founder, and we started jamming, and, everything happened.
That is quite the story. And I think like the word you use, serendipitous, is like the word that so many people can use about like how they got into crypto. I think like when I look at my journey too, like there's so many serendipitous moments where like all the right things just happened at the right time in the right place. And that's really like the only secret to like how it happened. There was like no trick or strategy behind it or anything. It was just serendipitous. And then, like some of the OGs that you called out, Matt Condon, of course, like we had him on the podcast. He was episode 70 if people want to go back and listen to that. And then we had Matt Stevenson on as well, episode 62. And then just had Jonathan Mann on recently, episode 88. I sort of regret not having him sing a song on the podcast. I think that was a huge missed opportunity. But you can go check out all of his songs and you can buy them as NFTs now as well, which is pretty exciting. Okay, so going back to your journey, so you meet Matt in the hallway of a hotel and he explains NFTs to you for the first time, and it sort of just clicks. Like how would you explain NFTs to people today that still don't understand what it is?
I like to explain them from the art perspective because that's the perspective that I'm the strongest at. But I'm also really getting into the whole, explaining how the usual collector goes about collecting one thing or the other. Doesn't matter if it's salt shakers or, like Pokemon cards or NFTs. There is something about collecting that it's, very into human nature. And then, I also try to think about how to explain it in the light of punks selling for ridiculous amounts of money. And I realized that actually, at the very core, NFTs and any other means of exchange, means of exchange have always been historically part of the human nature, whether I don't know how long ago, it was about trading spices or, trading, gold or anything, anything that can be traded. It's about exchanging. It's about building relationships through the exchange as well. And NFTs, might be the next big thing to actually exchange with and build relationships with. So, that's the way that I like to explain, the whole like craze about, why are the prices so high? It's because people assign value to things that, the people assign value to things. They tend to do that all the time, So maybe NFTs are the next medium of exchange. Maybe they're not. I don't know. I don't like, I don't have all the answers, but I think they have a really good chance of being that, beyond the artistry, beyond the collectible aspect, and beyond the, technical capabilities of an NFT. The fact that people are transacting JPEGs and building communities around the JPEG, can be the next bank. Banks were, literal banks at the very first start. So yeah, I'm trying to explain them that way, and people seem to like that analogy.
Yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of people, give NFTs grief because they say NFTs don't have inherent value. It's all just whatever value people want to assign to it. But that's sort of true for like most things in life, right? It's like we assign, like, things only have value because we assign value to them. Like, people only think that banks, hold the power because we have assigned them this power.
Yeah. And in the Middle Ages, they were actually literal wooden banks. Or, I don't like cumin, but actually cumin was part of the spice exchange. So it's okay that I don't like it, but you can't deny that at some point, cumin was part of finances as well.
Yeah, exactly. Very true. So you have this idea for like an online NFT art gallery. Basically, you meet up with Trent and Sam. You guys jam on it. Tell me the story from there. Like, where did it go from there?
Oh, it was wonderful. I've always said that if I made it in crypto, the only thing that I wanted to do was to become an art collector and then open my house for everyone to see like once a day, because there's like things like that in Berlin. And I just love that. And I was just doing my journey while working in infrastructure, and, just this NFT thing was on the side. I hadn't really bought anything. And then Trent comes up after we share like 100 links, and he tells me, why don't we do an online gallery? And I was like, okay, maybe my gallery was actually like not on a building, I don't know. And it was so exciting. And we joined the Discord. We started talking. The first call with the guys was absolutely fantastic. Everything was flowing. I was like, hey guys, I just visited a museum yesterday and I think we should do a gift shop. And they were like, this is super fun, and we started jamming about curators and this and that. And everything else was, sort of also happened quite in a serendipitous way. I started writing some copy for what we had at the start, the gallery. And I wasn't comfortable with, calling everything gallery, because I didn't want to use so many terms from the art world, because, in the end, NFTs are much more than art. They can be also gaming assets or whatever. So I decided to use the word registry, just like it was on my head. And then, like a day later, Trent comes at us, and he has had an epiphany and remembered token curated registries. And probably I was thinking of the same, but I was just fixing copy. So, and then from there we started evolving this idea, because actually it made sense. Token curated registries, for those that don't know, were born in 2018. Everyone thought they were the next hot thing. It was about curating ERC20s. It never took off. But actually, there's a million reasons why it makes sense in the context of curating ERC 721 and 155. And actually, it can become labor to do this. It can be part of, incentive structures where you would curate certain tokens, or, you would have a token for curating a whole list of NFTs, but it can also become labor. People can become real curators. Maybe in the future it will be fully fledged jobs. I don't know. I'm just at the start of all of these, but it was, everything clicked really. And very, very soon, and in an incredible way, some started learning a lot about protocols and how a protocol is constructed. So we were able to bring a lot of the values from, the Web3 movement that I have been involved for such a long time into the protocol. So, we started shedding the opinion of the protocol. We started shedding the permission layers. So, right now the protocol is completely open and permission. So right now it's closed because we're testing, but it's going to be completely open and permissionless, and people will be able to curate any ERCs, any NFT that they want. So, we sort of started merging into like this Web3 native, new media protocol that is now. But it took sort of like a thinking process and a transformation process throughout the whole thing. We came from, Trent was totally into DeFi, Sam was totally into art. I had, an infrastructure background, but I also have an art background and, more like blockchain art as well. And we all merged, into having all of these values and, pillars from Web3 and combining them with what actually we wanted to build.
Yeah, for sure. So explain how people can use JPEG. So like the three main categories of people that can use it, I guess, are like the collectors, the curators, and the creators. And so for each of those groups, like if I'm an art collector, for instance, can I just go on JPEG and open like my own gallery with the NFT art pieces that I hold?
So you can do that. Basically, those three user profiles that you mentioned, yes, they are existing on JPEG, but they are not necessarily like definite, because nothing should be definite, and we shouldn't dictate the profile of each of users. We're very open. So basically, how can you use JPEG? And it's in any way that you think that creating a sub-registry for your for a borrowed collection, a newly minted collection, your own collection, that's the use that you will give to the project. And because you can create many sub-registries, so maybe you're a collector that has a very large collection of, let's say, art blocks, but you are also very much into parallel NFTs. So, you want to have like some sort of like cute art blocks exhibition, but then, you want to give prominence to your parallel NFTs because that's where your collection is. That's, where your interest is. So, maybe you want to curate things that don't necessarily belong to you as well. And, who knows that if the same collector curator in the future, teams up with a couple of cool people around and they organize a drop, and they can do that too, The cool thing about JPEG is that it's actually it's a core registry. It's user generated. So that means that you import token data. You don't import any NFT to the registry. And then that registry starts building as a canonical list of NFTs that are within the JPEG protocol for curation. And it's a new primitive for the space. Then from there, the curators, that can be either collectors or it doesn't matter, they can, grab any NFT they want and curate them into subregistries. And those subregistries are on-chain record of exhibitions. Of course, at the last layer comes, of course, the interface part, where you can either choose one of our interfaces. We have developed some in-house with amazing designers, or you can bring your own interface. Maybe we onboard a really big art gallery and they have, they want everything on the website, but they want an on-chain record of their exhibition. So that's where the strongest point of JPEG comes in. Or maybe someone has a podcast like you, and they want to offer in the website of the podcast a bunch of things, episodes, list of their favorite NFTs. So you would be able to create your own subregistry with your list of favorite NFTs and just show it on your website. So it's really versatile.
Gotcha. Okay, I was gonna ask, what are the I guess primary ways that you see people using it? So you could literally just display it on your website. I guess you could have I was just thinking as you were talking, you could have, an in-person party somewhere and have a big screen and display your gallery on the screen. And so people have sort of this art gallery experience while they're just, partying at your house or something.
Exactly.
That sort of goes back to your original idea of wanting to open your house to show people your NFTs.
And at the same time, after the lights are out and the monitors are out, then you would have that record, So there's actually one of the people that we're discussing with. They want to curate an exhibition in their own really beautiful venue, and at the same time, they want the on-chain record to start, delving more into, the Web3 elements of the whole NFT ecosystem. So, and then, we also have spoken to a lot of NFT curators or, people that assemble different exhibitions or art advisors that, sometimes when they are assembling an exhibition, they actually probably need to either purchase the NFT or they need to, create physical physical contracts to make sure that, those NFTs are not sold before the exhibition. With JPEG and having a registry of what happened and the work that they have done, like this CryptoPunk A, B, and C have been curated on JPEG at this time. This is a transaction that proves it, and then if they sell, they have the receipts to sell to people, and those receipts can be forged or anything. And it's also important because we're building NFTs that are meant to last. Right? Right now we are also solving the storage of the digital medium via Arweave and other permanent storage solutions. We have the Ethereum and other blockchains to certify provenance, to certify the existence of that NFT and the ownership, but we don't have anything that shows the path of that NFT through, different times in history. One of the really easy examples that comes to mind was that in 2016, Christie's or 18, I don't know, Christie's did this NFT panel, Art Gnome organized, and artist Robbie Barrett released some NFTs, especially for the guests. And he gave, with super rare, and he gave cards, like physical cards, like these, to people to redeem those NFTs. Turns out, people didn't give one, and some of them didn't redeem or lost the card. The Lost Robbies and the Robbie Barrett AI Nude collection that was released on Christie's on the Christie's event is now worth a crazy amount of money. I think the last one sold for more than $500,000. So imagine if at the time there would have been a record that was able to, help people track down assistants compare them to, the record, anything, like, you could have done a lot. So we're building for the long term. We're building for art history. We're building for collectible history as well. And we're building to track that, to be able to help people track down all the historical milestones that are actually happening in the span of just months.
Yeah, for sure. I just see so many like thoughts running through my head. Like I see so many use cases for this in the future. And I think the cool thing is like, because you only need the transaction to curate your sub registry, you could, get together with a group of friends and curate something together based on the NFTs that you own. And so it's not just, like me showing off my NFTs. Like maybe I don't have that many great ones, but I can get together with my friends who also have like a few like really cool NFTs, and we can, combine our collections together into this exhibition that is like way cooler than any of us could curate on our own.
Right. And then, if you guys are, still thirsty for more NFTs, or if you want more, prominent things, or you feel that, a particular NFT would fit so well, but it's, none of your friends hold that, but maybe Variant Fund holds it. Or, now A16 said join Fingerprints now. Maybe A16 said or Fingerprints actually own one, then borrow it. Import token data into JPEG, and that's it. You don't need to ask them for permission. It's all cool.
Yeah.
Maybe you do need to ask them for permission, but just like in a social layer, right?
Yeah. Like, hey, heads up. Do you mind if I use this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice thing to do, but you don't, the future is permissionless and it's open, and that's the infrastructure that we're building. So, the curation of the assets within that infrastructure should be the same, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't.
How far do you see this going? Like, do you see the Louvre ever, displaying a JPEG collection?
I don't see the Louvre displaying a JPEG collection. I see. So, I'm not sure what will happen. I want to be building for posterity, as I said. I see a lot of, new and upcoming experimental art collectives wanting, that are gonna need JPEG because they can't afford, to ship pieces. They can't afford to buy NFTs, and they can't afford maybe to, have monitors to show the NFTs, but they want to do something. One good example was, there were a lot of groups in the 60s, 70s, and 80s about, artists that became activists. So, it would be wonderful to have some kind of, an NFT activism and have those records stored on chain, and they would represent, historical moments in time. That would be fantastic. That's actually my end game, more than Louvre, more than anything else, and to allow new forms of experimentation. It's basically that. I'd rather support the up and coming movements, and we don't know how big an up and coming movement it's gonna be. So yeah, I'd rather support that.
Wow, I didn't even think about that as a potential use case, but I love that, and I would love to see it go that direction as well. That also is a lot more exciting to me than seeing the Louvre display it, although that would be exciting as well.
I mean, great for business. For my soul, I don't know. I prefer to support small actors.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. So I want to go back to something you said earlier about like NFT curation, and like we don't know where this is going to go. Maybe it could be like a full-time job in the future, being an NFT art curator. This is something I've thought about more so in the context of music, because I don't know that much about art, to be honest. But having grown up like playing music and stuff, I always think, like it just seems so unfair that, in order to make it big as a musician, you've got to like have the connections with record labels, you have to have money, you have to have all of these things. And I'm like, there's so many up and coming artists like on YouTube that just don't have the resources to make it big, but they have the talent, they have the skills, they just don't have the resources. And so how cool would it be, like in this Web3 world, if we, just ordinary people like me and you, can have a say in curating the next generation of, you know, big artists that we're going to see at concerts and we're going to hear on the radio and all of these things. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Like if you agree with that, you know, from like an art perspective, or if you have, you know, you think about it in like different ways.
I do. So, you know, the way that patronage works, and, you know, this has been over the hundreds and hundreds of years, is, you know, you find an up and coming artist. It can be Beethoven, maybe, you know, like say that you met Beethoven when he was 15 years old and you, hey, this guy has talent, but, you know, he doesn't have money. So big deal. I'm going to start, you know, the patronage. And then by, you know, combining those artists with the right circle of people or getting them visible, that's how you create, you know, you start building a career for them as well, you know, alongside their incredible talent, of course. That is obviously patronage and not curation, but I see curation as you know, a complementary way of doing patronage. Whereas in patronage, you actually probably need to have money, contacts, or whatever. In the kind of curation that we propose at JPEG, you don't need to have any of those things. Maybe a little bit of money just for the gas fees, but that's about it. You know, maybe you start off as an anon and curate an amazing exhibition through JPEG. And it has up and coming artists, and, you know, you just started your own anon account and have very little ETH or, you know, whatever crypto asset, but you really want to do something with culture. And yeah, it doesn't also have to be art NFTs. You can combine different things. You can combine music, you can combine gaming assets, whatever you want. And, you know, by simply, you know, engaging on curation and sharing and maybe tagging people on Twitter, you know, something as simple as that. People see your exhibition, and not only you get elevated by having curated these with very little to, you know, almost no money, just for fees, depending on the day, can be very expensive or not, and, you know, you get others to discover NFTs. And then, you know, people tend to follow the tastemakers. So once the taste-making journey of a curator starts, they should be able to elevate as well the artists that they work with. So, you know, combining different artists, whether up and coming or established, makes sense from that perspective, because, you know, the ones with a platform will, you know, be combined with ones with little platform, and that's where, you know, the smaller ones get visibility as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. Something else I wanted to ask you about is, because you've been in the NFT space for so long, like since the very beginning, one thing that I've started doing recently is going back and doing some like NFT archaeology and digging up some of the OG projects that are still successful, and just thinking about like why did these projects, you know, make it through the test of time and they're still big today, and why other projects, you know, like there's so many new NFT projects every day now, and obviously like a lot of them like don't make it big, like CryptoPunks or something. So from your view, like what is it about the projects that you've seen make it, you know, big over the course of, you know, 4 years that we've been, you know, seeing NFTs in the space? Like what is it about those projects? What do those projects have in common that like the other projects don't have, the ones that don't make it?
I don't think that if there is one 2017, 2018 NFT project that hasn't made it, I would be very curious to find out which one it is, because then I would be just like buying the whole thing and speculating with it.
weren't CryptoPunks from 2017, or like Rare Pepes or Digital Zones, which is like my recent obsession?
Oh yeah, but you know, I think the ones that are, you know, we can say like all of those, like all of the early projects probably made it by now, because, you know, there's just so much archaeology, And there's I was actually discussing this. Sorry to rant, but I was actually discussing this in my newsletter. NFTs are amazing because, unlike, for example, DeFi, people are not chasing the next new form or the next new financial primitive. People love legacy and people respect history. So that's why, that's why I say that probably all of the projects from the early days have made it in a way or another. From those, of course, you have more basic ones. You have like ether rocks. They're just rocks. I still love it because of the absurdity of it all. But yeah, no artistic value, rocks, literal rocks. And then you have others that are, so conceptually rich, like flower tokens that, were, growing in an office in Berlin. And, the material zones as well that, like the concept is absolutely beautiful. And, it homages a very, fundamental artist in the field of conceptual art, like Yves Klein. So yeah, in the end, the cool thing about NFTs is that people value history and legacy and archaeology. So, that's why all of the NFTs from that time make it. And also, if you were there when ETH was very low and or people were doing ICOs, then the focus was elsewhere, was building other stuff, was building ERC20s, and you would assume that anything that you built then was, first of its kind, which is sort of a value in NFTs.
Yeah, I would say so. What are some of your favorite projects in the space today? I'm just curious.
I have so many. So I love Bitcoin, Bitcoin, by Sarah Mayoas. It's originally, I think, from 2015, and it was backed it is a coin backed by petals, rose petals. Then I love the Mutant Garden Cedars from Harm van der Dorpel as well. Those are absolutely stunning. I really like anything that comes out of Ria Myers, who is an amazing conceptual artist, and I'm very much into conceptual art as well. So I really like those two. Salt, I have to say, I know it's sort of my own, but Salt V4 is such a beautiful project. Our own, rotating NFTs. And yeah, there's a few one that really gets a big shout out from me because it's so much fun. It's Kutsu, the Folia virus that never leaves your wallet, so you can transact forever and just like spread it. And it has no value. It's still really, it has no like monetary value. It has a lot of value otherwise. So yeah, those are some of my favorites. And of course, there's this brilliant artist that I've had the pleasure of working with, Sarah Friend, and she has two really good NFT projects. One is Off. Off is also a multiplayer game. You buy NFTs on Matic, is off.supply, in case you're curious and want to check it out. And you buy different titles of devices, and then all of the holders need to hold a certain number for the devices to reveal themselves. And then there's a second project by her that is currently on display at an art show in Hamburg, and it's called Life Forms Supply, and it's like Tamagotchi pets, but as NFTs, also on Matic, and you need to take care of them every day. And actually, you should gift them. You shouldn't transact. So yeah, I
Oh,
love it
interesting.
too.
What's that one called? The Tamagotchi one?
Lifeforms.supply.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna check that out. Yeah. So when you like decide, which NFTs to buy and stuff, like when you see these new projects come out, is your thought process like what is your thought process? Is it just like, do I like what this art looks like? Do I like the story behind it? Do I think this is going to be valuable, like from a monetary perspective in the future? Like, what's your thought process?
I usually try to dig into the concept and the story behind it more than the pictorial aspect, and that's how I decide. Of course, I have bought things because I wanted to flip them. I because we have all been there, and other things I just like minted them because they were super fun. I just minted the firsts by Death Beef, and I knew like everything was going to charity, and it was just so hilarious to dig to call the numbers, the token numbers on the contract, and just get these very random poems or quotes, and just like see if I could meet one. So I had a lot of fun with those ones. So it depends, really. I'm not the one that's gonna go into art blocks for a drop and just spend a lot of money in gas on a project that I may not get. But if the project is especially beautiful, like the Lewitt generator by Mitchell Chan, I will probably try to make it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And then last question for you, where do you see NFTs being in, the long run? Like say 10 years down the line, how do you see us interacting with NFTs in our day-to-day lives?
I have trouble seeing myself in November. Um, Everything is moving so fast and happening at the speed
Yeah.
of light that it's impossible. I do think that they will overtake, um, and they will actually overtake our digital lives, and they will completely change the way that we transact. Maybe not in 10 years for the ways that we actually transact and exchange value, but probably in 30 years it will become sort of a new means of transaction. In the end, I look at things from from a sociological perspective as well, and I think this will also change the way that we see the actors within the culture industry or sphere, in which we were used to seeing culture as this cute thing that was absolutely necessary for our life, but not something that you would actively invest, like the general audience. Maybe in mainstream culture, yes, by all means, but not in everything. You wouldn't take an active role in raising awareness about a creator, or you wouldn't think about the ways that you could invest with your friends around purchasing an NFT for the future. Right now, NFTs are becoming financial instruments and cultural art, and they are cultural artifacts. So I think they will also reshuffle the way that we see culture and that we pay attention to culture.
Yeah, 100%. I cannot wait to see that. And yeah, I totally agree with you. I think I just tweeted something like 1 week and 1 week feels like 3 months in NFT Twitter or something like that, which is true. I mean, I can't believe like every coming out of last week, especially, I like had to take the weekend off because I was just like, I feel like I just got like years shaved off my life, like trying to keep up with this stuff in 1 week.
I am so tired. I wake up thinking of NFTs. Even before the boom, they were starting to penetrate my dreams, and it was awful. Uh, you know,
Awful,
but
awful, or lovely. I
no,
mean, it,
awful,
yeah.
awful, awful. I prefer to dream about more interesting stuff.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Maria, so much for being here. I end every podcast episode with a segment called Explain Your Tweet. This is where I dig through your Twitter and I pull out some interesting or cryptic tweets and I give you a chance to explain them. And I have to say, your Twitter is is very entertaining. I would say, like, within the crypto Twitter community, especially. Here, I'll just dive into this one because I think this one sums up your thoughts pretty well. So this is from August 9th. You had sort of, a train of tweets on the same topic. You said, first of all, wrote a haiku today. Shit posting is art, unlike your terrible takes, which are just shit posts. And then you also tweeted on that same day, it's crazy to me that crypto Twitter has yet to understand the dynamics of supply and demand also apply to thought leadership. Too many tryhards. However, there's a market opportunity in shit posting. Please leverage it and leave us alone with your terrible takes. So I am probably guilty of this. I will just lead by that. But also would love to hear your thoughts about, just like what you were thinking, like what was frustrating you that day when you were tweeting this.
It's a mixture of toxic positivity happening in the space and opium dealership. I've worked with crypto communities for a very long time. And when the crypto winter comes, we need to deal with a lot of personal issues from people that lost money and everything. So I want people to be really more mindful about what they're tweeting. Of course, I'm seeing a cultural transformation. I already told you this, of course, I believe that banks should go fuck themselves, and that, of course, I hate KYC, and everything else. I am a person that loves their privacy and everything, but you need to be careful about selling promises that you are not sure are going to happen. These sort of like empty affirmations feel a lot like just trying to convince themselves. And, they are, they're in the most part, they're from people that, have huge bags. So, people need to be mindful of that. Not all of us have made it or are going to make it, really, for every time. So, there's winners and losers everywhere. Everything is a casino. So, just restrain yourself. If you think that you are throwing out a lot of promises and you have a large following, if you have like a few followers, that's completely fine. Talk all the shit that you want. But, some good, people need critics and people need to be a little bit more cynical because there's too many hopes and dreams and there's too many, like, both emotional and financial investment going on. So we need to proceed with a lot of caution, especially now that actually crypto has effectively gone mainstream.
Yeah, that's something that I was just seeing somebody discuss this on a Twitter thread today about, like, how do you share about NFT projects you're excited about without misleading your audience, because, like, obviously you can't share every single thing that in your brain as you're making the decision to, like, ape into an NFT project. You can't share all of that with somebody, but if you don't share all of that information, then a lot of people reading your tweet just think, oh, I need to, like, go ape into this because, Maria said she, like, likes it or whatever.
Yeah.
So how do you find that balance?
I try not to share anything, but also people don't follow me for my financial leads. People follow me because I like to shitpost. So I'm not really worried about that. But, I am really mindful that, and also people that, purchase some things that I share actually like cool stuff. They're not doing it for investment. So yeah, I try to not share everything. I keep it with my team or with my friends. I have Telegram private groups, like, not paid Telegram groups, right? I'm not green. I share it with friends. I share them with my sister that also works in NFTs. I maybe don't share them at all. Why do you need to overshare everything as well? Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, everything on the right measure.
Yeah, that's totally true. All right, well, thanks so much, Maria. I really appreciate you taking the time. Before you go, just tell people where they can find you if they want to connect with you personally after listening to this, and then also where people can go to check out JPEG.
Sure. So JPEG is jpg.space, the website. For the Twitter, just search JPEG, because it has a lot of underscores, so you would get into trouble otherwise. And for me on Twitter, I am MP the real MVP. I think that's it.
Love it. Thank you again so much, Maria. Thank you everybody for tuning in. And super fun. Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time too when you're traveling. I know you're like in a hotel with your cute little pup, who I was hoping would make an appearance but didn't. But we'll get to see him some other time. But safe travels. Thank you so much for taking the time. And we'll be back again soon with another episode of the Unstoppable Podcast.
Bye-bye.